today is the day that I'm going to dive into the Silmarillion for the first time and just start to make my way through the first sections. As you can see, my husband is already about a quarter of the way through, so he's been working ahead of me. Today I'm going to crack it open for the first time and read about the Ainulindalë, the music of the Einar. So the first kind of pre-section to the actual Silmarillion. Okay, first thoughts are that Tolkien's prose in the Ainulindalë is just beautiful. Like, it is the best of anything that I've read that he's written, and possibly the best of anything that I've ever read. This language is just musical. It's so profoundly beautiful, and I'm just stunned by how deeply and richly Christian this creation story is. I can see so many resemblances with the biblical story of creation and with the Christian God, and it almost brings me to tears and makes me love my God more, and I just think that's so wonderful. And so essentially what happens is we have Ilúvatar, the one divine God. He creates the Einar, who are these powerful beings, and each of them comprehends a part of his mind and a part of his character, a special part, and I think that's really beautiful. And they're not really able to comprehend the parts that the others comprehend, so they're each kind of given a special part of Ilúvatar's mind, and then he invites them to join in his great theme, which is essentially the song of the universe, or the song of the world, the song of existence. He's going to sing the world into existence through this great theme, and he invites the Einar to play a role in that. One of them, Melkor, has been given the most power and knowledge out of any of the Einar, but he misuses this blessing, and he has this deep thirst for the imperishable flame, or the creative spirit, or the life-giving spirit that only Ilúvatar possesses. By this imperishable flame, Ilúvatar is able to create the Einar and the rest of the universe, and Melkor desires it for himself. And so as the Einar are singing this theme, Melkor starts to sing his own theme and to weave his own matters into the song, and it creates discord, and it starts to kind of ruin the theme. He even begins to drag some of the other Einar into his discord, which is a sea of turbulent sound. And at first, as Ilúvatar watches this, he just smiles, and then he creates a new theme, like and unlike the former. As it gathers power, it has new beauty. But Melkor's discord continues to kind of resound in this theme. Then Ilúvatar becomes stern. He creates a third theme, unlike the others, and it takes to itself its own power and profundity. We have two musics progressing at one time before the seat of Ilúvatar, woven together into a solemn song. Then Ilúvatar arises, and in one chord the music ceases, and his face is terrifying. Then he says to Melkor, "These things that you have sung, I will show them forth, I will let them play out, I will let them be part of the story of the world, that you may see what I have done. And thou, Melkor, shalt see that no theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me, nor can any alter the music in my despite. For he that attempteth this shall prove but mine instrument in the devising of things more wonderful, which he himself hath not imagined." So what Melkor has meant for wrong and for evil and for his own, Ilúvatar is going to use for good and to bring about his purposes. Another thing that strikes me is that Ilúvatar's theme, the original theme before Melkor corrupted it, but I mean this speaks true to the theme after it's been corrupted and rewritten as well. It's so profoundly beautiful, but there's a line in there that an even greater music shall be made by the Einar and the children of Ilúvatar, the elves and men and dwarves, as we will soon see, after the end of days. So as beautiful and incredible as the creation was, and as the idea for the story of the world in the mind of Ilúvatar was at the beginning, its fulfillment at the end of days is going to be even more beautiful than imagined. And part of that, I think, is going to be because of the discord that Melkor sowed, which is going to be defeated. And the defeat of that, the triumph of good over evil, is actually a far more beautiful thing than if evil had not come into the world and everything had just been good. There is just so much to think of here. I love how Ilúvatar sings the world into existence. Just like God spoke the world into existence, word, sound, thought, but especially word, is just so critical. That's how it all began, with a word, but in Tolkien's world with sound, with music. And I love how he calls it the great theme. Something about the word theme, the phrase the great theme, is just also profoundly beautiful. It's better than song. Theme implies something more. Theme implies a deep meaning behind the song and behind the music. I just love this so much. One thing I don't want to do as I share kind of my journey through Tolkien's Legendarium is ruin it for you by like reading too many of the passages or just dwelling too much on the wording and the prose and the music of the book itself, because I want you to be able to experience that yourself. I want you to be able to read through the Ainulindalë and just be struck for the first time by just the utter poetry. And so yeah, I probably will share some of my favorite lines and paragraphs here and there just because I cannot resist. But I'm also going to try to just share my appreciation for it while encouraging you to go experience it for yourself, if that makes sense. The weather right now is so cool and yet cozy and autumnal, and it's just my favorite time of year. Every morning as I'm driving to school and every afternoon as I'm driving back home, I'm just like in awe. The depth of the orange. Orange is like my favorite color, and to just see the world painted in shades of orange in the fall, it just fills my heart with such joy. So I'm hoping to spend a lot of time outside this weekend, enjoying these last days of October. But I also have to write report cards. It's report card writing season already. First reports are going home soon, so that's going to be one of my biggest tasks, as well as prepping to teach Troilus and Cressida, Shakespeare play, and the Peloponnesian War, and some other things. But I do hope to spend some more time this weekend digging into the Silmarillion and perhaps some of Tolkien's other work. Zach and I do hope to go for a little road trip tomorrow up north to the Elora Gorge, where there's supposed to be beautiful hiking grounds, and so hopefully as we drive we can finish up The Two Towers by Tolkien, because we've been working on that one for forever. It's the book that stays in the car that I read aloud whenever we drive anywhere together. Yeah, we've just been working through it very slowly, which is okay, but it would be nice to actually to finish it up and to start on the Return of the King. So we will see how that goes. Just wanted to finish off this vlog by reading a section from The Two Towers in the chapter The Stairs of Cirith Ungol, where Sam and Frodo are talking about tales and stories and legends and whether or not they fall into one and what the ending of their tale is going to look like. Sam says this: "Yes, that's so, and we shouldn't be here at all if we'd known more about it before we started, but I suppose it's often that way. The brave things in the old tales and songs, Mr. Frodo, adventures as I used to call them. I used to think that they were things the wonderful folk of the stories went out and looked for, because they wanted them, because they were exciting and life was a bit dull, a kind of sport, as you might say. But that's not the way of it with the tales that really mattered, or the ones that stay in the mind. Folk seem to have been just landed in them usually. Their paths were laid that way, as you put it. But I expect they had lots of chances, like us, of turning back, only they didn't. And if they had, we shouldn't know, because they'd have been forgotten. We hear about those as just went on, and not all to a good end, mind you, at least not to what folk inside a story and not outside it call a good end. You know, coming home and finding things all right, though not quite the same, like old Mr. Bilbo. But those aren't always the best tales to hear, though they may be the best tales to get landed in. I wonder what sort of a tale we've fallen into." And then Frodo says, "I wonder, but I don't know, and that's the way of a real tale. Take anyone that you're fond of. You may know or guess what kind of tale it is, happy ending or sad ending, but the people in it don't know, and you don't want them to." Sam then says, "No, sir, of course not. Baron now, he never thought he was going to get that Silmaril from the Iron Crown and Thangorodrim, and yet he did, and that was a worse place and a blacker danger than ours. But that's a long tale, of course, and goes on past the happiness and into grief and beyond it, and the Silmaril went on and came to Arendelle. And why, sir, I never thought of that before. You've got some of the light of it in that star glass that the lady gave you. Why, to think of it, we're in the same tale still. It's going on. Don't the great tales never end?" "No, they never end as tales," said Frodo, "but the people in them come and go when their part's ended. Our part will end later, or sooner." And then Sam goes on to say, "And then we can have some rest and some sleep," said Sam. He laughed grimly. "And I mean just that, Mr. Frodo. I mean plain ordinary rest and sleep and waking up to a morning's work in the garden. I'm afraid that's all I'm hoping for all the time. All the big important plans are not for my sort. Still, I wonder if we shall ever be put into songs or tales. We're in one, of course, but I mean, put into words, you know, told by the fireside, or read out of a great big book with red and black letters, years and years afterwards. And people will say, 'Let's hear about Frodo and the Ring.' And they'll say, 'Yes, that's one of my favorite stories. Frodo was very brave, wasn't he, Dad?' Yes, my boy, the famousest of the hobbits, and that's saying a lot." Frodo says, "It's saying a lot too much." And then he says, "But you've left out one of the chief characters, Samwise the Stout-Hearted. I want to hear more about Sam, Dad. Why didn't they put in more of his talk, Dad? That's what I like. It makes me laugh. And Frodo wouldn't have got very far without Sam, would he, Dad? I just love this part of the book. I just love thinking about the fact that we're all living out a story. We're all living out our own individual stories, but they're part of an even bigger story. And we all play a role, whether we know it or not, whether we accept that or not. And our stories are laid out for us. Yeah, and as we go through our lives, we live out the story that was meant for us, that was made for us. And we fulfill our part in the story of the world. We fulfill our destiny, our predetermined path. I love when Frodo asks, I wonder if we'll ever be put into songs or stories. That's something I've often wondered about myself and wished that I could do something significant enough in my life to be put into a story, to be recorded and to be remembered. But at the end of the day, the point of living isn't to be remembered. Or to go out and find adventures and try to make a name and a story for yourself. It's to live the one that you've fallen into and that you've been given, and to just do the best that you can with the tasks that are in front of you. And so that's where I'm going to end this vlog today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next one.